Right now, there are over 1 billion cows alive on this planet, raised for one single purpose. In the United States alone, 9 billion chickens are slaughtered every year. Sheep, pigs, goats, rabbits, deer. Entire global industries built on animals that spend their whole lives eating grass. Now try to remember the last time you saw a lion on a menu. Wolf steak, a roasted hawk. You never have. We have farmed and hunted and eaten almost every plant eater on Earth. But the hunters, the wolves, the lions, the eagles, we left almost entirely alone. So why don't we eat predators? Or is the answer just that they'd taste bad? To answer that, you have to go back, long before farms, before butchers, to a person standing in tall grass with a spear, deciding what to chase. Because a meal wasn't something you bought, it was something you picked a fight with. And when you're the one holding the spear, the first question was never how it tastes, it was whether it could kill you first. A deer runs, a rabbit hides, but a wolf turns around. A lion is already watching you back. Flip it around for a second. To that lion, a human with a spear isn't a farmer. It's a slow, soft, clawless thing that wandered too close. Prey doesn't fight back and win. Predators do. A cow will never eat you. A wolf, a bear, a big cat absolutely will. Chase a deer, and the worst case is you go home hungry. Chase a bear, and the worst case is you don't go home at all. Multiply that one choice across 10,000 years, and a whole species quietly learns to hunt the thing that runs, not the thing that hunts back. So, we built an entire cuisine around the animals that couldn't say no, and we left the ones that could. But danger only explains why we didn't hunt them. It doesn't explain why we never simply farmed them. And that's where the math ends the argument almost by itself. In 1942, an ecologist named Raymond Lindeman worked out what's now called the 10% rule. At every step up a food chain, about 90% of the energy burns away, lost to heat, to movement, to the plain work of staying alive. A field of grass pours 100 pounds of energy into maybe 10 pounds of deer, and that feeds just 1 pound of wolf. To raise a single pound of predator, you first have to raise 10 pounds of prey underneath it, and grow 100 pounds of plants under that. Raising 1 cow to slaughter weight already eats up a year or two of grain and grazing land nobody thinks about. A lion would cost 10 times that, just to keep one hunter alive long enough to grow, and no society in history ever had that kind of surplus to burn. A predator is, by design, the most expensive meat on Earth. And here's the part your own body already proves. You can't eat grass. A cow can. A cow takes something completely worthless to you, cellulose, stalks, the leaves left over from your own crops, and turns it into meat you can actually use. A lion does the exact opposite. It takes the meat you already wanted and turns it into more lion. One animal makes food out of nothing. The other just eats your dinner and hands you the bill. Now the skeptic is already objecting, and fairly, because there's a hole in this. We do eat predators. Tuna is a predator. So is salmon. So is bass. There are alligator farms all across Louisiana, crocodile on menus in parts of Asia, shark, snake, eel, and yes, plenty of people will swear gator tastes just like chicken. Fair. Completely fair. But look closely at the pattern. Every predator we actually eat is one of two things. Either it's something we pull cheap out of the wild, where the ocean grew it for free, or it's a cold-blooded reptile that sits motionless for weeks between meals and costs almost nothing to keep. What we never ever do is raise a warm, hungry, four-legged hunter up from a field of grass. The exceptions aren't really exceptions. They're just the handful of places where the math finally worked. And even when the math works, something else is waiting in the meat. It's called biomagnification. The poisons in an ecosystem, mercury, lead, industrial runoff, don't vanish as they climb a food chain. They concentrate. A small fish carries a trace of mercury. A bigger fish eats hundreds of those. A shark eats hundreds of those, until it's carrying 1,000,000-fold more poison than the water around it. Eat a predator, and you inherit everything it ever ate. It's the same reason doctors tell pregnant women to stay away from shark and swordfish, not because those fish are unhealthy by nature, but because they sit at the very top of a chain that has been quietly collecting toxins for years. And we have watched this happen. In the 20th century, the pesticide DDT washed into rivers, soaked into algae, concentrated inside fish, and concentrated again inside the bald eagles that ate them, until their eggshells grew so thin the eggs collapsed under the mother's own weight. America's national bird fell below 1,000 nesting pairs before DDT was finally banned in 1972. That is what a lifetime at the top of the chain does to living tissue. Put that eagle's last meal on your plate, and you'd be eating every drop of it. And that's before the passengers, the trichinella worm that curls up and sleeps in the muscle of bear and wolf and fox. The reason a single shared meal of bear sent people across 3 American states to the hospital in 2022. And then, somewhere along the way, culture caught up with all of it and made the rule sacred. The dietary laws in Leviticus forbid eating birds of prey and clawed carnivores by name: the eagle, the vulture, the hawk. Islamic law draws the exact same boundary: nothing that hunts with fang or talon. Cultures with no contact at all. Ancient Israel, the Arabian Peninsula, hunting nations across the Americas, landed on the same invisible line, completely independently. Eat the grazer, spare the hunter. And maybe that was never only about safety, because we didn't just fear the predators, we crowned them. The lion, the eagle, the wolf, the bear became our symbols of kings and gods, stamped onto flags and temple gates and the skulls our chiefs wore into battle. You don't eat the creature guarding your temple. You don't eat the animal you built a religion around. And it is very hard to serve dinner out of a god. We can measure the calories, the poison, the parasites. What we can't measure is the older thing underneath them, the instinct that told a hunter to turn away long before he could name a single reason. And every so often, the chain still collects on the ones who forget it. In 1913, out on the ice of Antarctica, a starving explorer named Xavier Mertz ate the only meat he had left: the livers of his own sled dogs. Dogs are carnivores, and a carnivore's liver holds a dose of vitamin A so concentrated that the meal itself becomes a slow poison. Mertz grew confused, then feverish, the skin peeling from his body, and within weeks he was dead. Killed not by the cold all around him, but by eating too high up the chain. Arctic hunters had passed the warning down for centuries. Never eat the liver of a polar bear. Even at the very end of everything, the predator got the last bite. So look down at your plate one more time, and notice what isn't on it. No claws, no fangs, no hunters. Just the patient animals that spend their whole lives eating the grass. And one clever animal, sitting near the very top of it all, that learned to eat almost anything. That's you. And it's worth sitting for a second with the strangest part of the whole story. Out there in the dark, among everything that hunts, nothing is farming you. The wolf was never on the menu. You were the one holding the spear.